I'm looking forward to getting into the album and your life and music. So thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get in to the new album, I always start with the COVID question. I want to know, 5 years ago, it's hard to believe it was that long ago. It changed so many things, especially for musicians. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. We, you know, I it was kind of a strange time for me actually because I was in the middle of working on this album, and we were gonna do the recording sessions, um, and I had a couple of other projects that are unrelated to this album also. We were just starting a project called the Chicago Immigrant Orchestra at the same time. And then just snap, lights out, everybody's at home. So there was a lot of reckoning and trying to figure out what to do. And yeah, it was a very interesting time for music because I think what kind of gave me the most hope, because at the time we didn't know even if this is gonna how long this is gonna last. Um, was it going to be a couple months or or a couple years? Just had absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
Um, and so what gave me a lot of refuge is I did at the time, especially in the thick of things, um, before we had some clarity on how we can operate. I I do direct an orchestra at the University of Chicago. It's a really large Middle East music ensemble, and we started getting together on Zoom meetings instead of rehearsals, like all 50 or 60 of us at the time. And we decided to virtually record a few pieces and put them out there, and edit all of these videos with Windows and stuff. It was just a massive undertaking,
Yeah.
but it was such a beautiful experience because even though life was, came to a screeching halt for the most part. We were able to kind of put something together that's still, musical, artistic, human, and we were able to establish that connection. So I think that kind of gave me in many ways a launching pad on how to operate in times of, let's say, um, adversity.
Yeah.
And um, soon after, the record that we're talking about today just was had a big pause, but then about a few months later we decided to still go into the studio, um, put on the masks and do testing before the session. So all of that, um, this whole album was done in 2021. um, and we had in the control room when we were listening to the music after each tune, we would put masks on, and then when go back into the studio, we'll take them off for the session. But we all had to test every single day before we came into the studio. It was interesting,
Yeah.
but we did it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
looking back, what a crazy time.
So is it weird to think you started this project so long ago? It's coming out now. Is there a part of you that's grown, that's changed, that's nostalgic about creating this and having it come out later? What's kind of your range of emotion with, it's always a big deal when you release an album, but this one has been so long in the making. What's your feeling on it?
Yeah. You know, even though we recorded it in 2021, there was a lot of work to do with it. So I still feel like I'm in the weeds,
Yeah.
even until today, because we did the recording. We had a lot of work with mixing and mastering and kind of just striking the right balance of everything. And every single track in this recording had a video, so we had a live recording of the sessions. And there was a lot of work after we were done with the mixing. I dived into all of that video editing with um, my friend, Michael Fernandez, who did all of the video shooting and editing and everything. Um, and we tried to make the actual edits be also kind of musical and sync with what's happening in the session. So that took a bit of time. So I do still feel in the weeds of it. But now that I kind of listen to it after everything has been finished and it's ready to go, I'm just like honestly excited to to do it again. You know,
Yeah.
it was such a beautiful experience because it was the first time I feel like I was able to um, bring my true voice into the recording without any boundaries. I broke some rules, and it's kind of a rebellious project in many ways. So I'm just very excited. I feel like this is the one that kind of um, uh, that I can build off of too.
Yeah.
So
So it's going to come out a day before Valentine's Day, February
yes,
13th. Okay.
Friday the 13th.
All right. I love it. I was
February.
born on Friday the 13th. I'm ready.
There we go.
That's up my avenue. So, what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
Okay. You know, this is an interesting album. It's something that straddles two worlds. Um, More than two worlds, but let's kind of focus on the main two worlds, which is um, Middle Eastern Arabic music and the jazz tradition. It's both of these things, and at the same time, it's neither. So, I would look at it as just a reflection of what it means to be uh, somebody who comes from these two cultures in many ways. I'm a Palestinian-American, both of these things equally. I am um, steeped in both cultures. I speak both languages, and I have a deep love for both of these musical traditions, and I want them both. I don't want to choose one. It's just that simple. It's just I'm wired that way, just given that I am this person. And I would just kind of look at it as a project that's simply music that's there to express something and using a lot of different tools to do it. Um, I wouldn't necessarily look for a specific genre in there because you're not really gonna find it. You're gonna find things that sound very familiar to you. If you're familiar with the jazz tradition. But you'll also find a lot of things that are familiar to you if you're familiar with the if you're if you've heard or have experienced Middle Eastern music too. So there's some microtonal stuff, there's interesting rhythmic stuff that typically you don't hear in jazz.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, there's a lot of jazz language, and the instrumentation is mainly jazz instrumentation. Musicians are all jazz musicians.
Yeah. Absolutely. Take me back to your beginnings. How did music and jazz, how did this all evolve into this career that you have today?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Ramallah, a Palestinian city. And at the time, when I was younger, there were very few music institutions or music education in general, but there was this conservatory called a newly founded conservatory called the uh, Edward Said National Conservatory of Music. And at the time, I mean, it was so early on that they had like a few instruments available to study. And one of them was, I wanted to do piano and didn't have enough room. They had just like two teachers and it was just packed. So I'm like, just tell me what you have. And they just said violin. I'm like, okay. So I studied violin, um, classical violin mainly. And then a few years later, as the institution grew, and there was more Middle Eastern music offering, I switched and I started learning Middle Eastern music and this kind of microtonal modal system. called maqam, which is basically, you're dealing with in between notes that are, like if you imagine a piano, a keyboard, these are pitches that are between the black and white keys, um, somewhere in the middle. So a scale could have white notes, black notes, but also some of these in between notes, which kind of evokes different types of emotions.
Yeah.
So I went on to study violin in the Arabic style, and then I switched to an instrument called buzuk, which is very prominent in this recording. And that's kind of my main instrument now.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, I think what drew me to um, jazz is mainly listening to a lot of jazz music growing up, and also when I was here in the United States. Um, Growing up, there's a composer who's very well known in the Middle East named Ziad Rahbani who passed recently. And he was the pioneer in bringing kind of uh, Arabic music into a jazz framework. So he was one that I've listened to a lot and I'm heavy influenced by. But then, soon after, just listening to a lot of uh, Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, uh, uh, a lot of big band stuff, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, just kind of getting deep into that because, when I first heard it, when I first heard the real thing, I was just completely mesmerized.
Yeah.
Not only because it's interesting, it's just like it has different dynamics. And it's like I said, it's more rebellious. And you hear, what drew me, I think at first was kind of how the bass operates, and it's not just playing, chord tones. It's kind of like, doing things that are colorful, um, and just kind of like creates these fireworks in your brain as you're listening to it. So it just drew me immediately. Nothing else, no other music was able to get me as much as jazz did. Um, so I just kept after it until I was able to um bring both things. I'm still, I'm a very uh I'm very steeped in Middle Eastern music, and I work in it quite a bit, and I play the classical Middle Eastern style as well. I direct, probably the largest orchestra, Middle Eastern orchestra, in the United States, which is in the University of Chicago. It's now 85 people.
Wow.
Um, and even there, I still kind of bring a lot of jazz aesthetic into my arrangements, including a lot of big band, sound and language. And I kind of ask, I bring a lot of instrumentation that's not in Middle Eastern music. So th this orchestra has a bunch of horns, um, and a proper rhythm section. So, um, yeah, I mean, this is all. It's just, the fact that these two musical traditions just speak to me equally, and I feel like I just want both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
And but yeah, this is kind of the upbringing in a nutshell, and this is a very very high level summary.
Yeah, no, I dig it. So, do you remember the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away, that was formative in the way that you approach the bandstand and how you kind of create your music world?
Um, I would say there wasn't one specific one that was just kind of like the one that drew me the most.
Yeah.
Um, in my first experiences in Chicago, I went to a lot of sessions that were more um, um, kind of like the acid jazz kind of sessions.
Yeah.
And kind of sitting into that was kind of interesting to me because it felt like, okay, there's a level of freedom here that I'm not used to.
Yeah.
Um, but Chicago, I mean, I'm in kind of in one of the epicenters of this tradition. So there isn't one that specifically um hit me really hard, but just the fact that you're there, I always find myself in gigs for other people, And I've heard a lot of types of jazz music, lots of types of like fusion, jazz fusion and traditional jazz. Um, I would say the thing that really hit me the most is the rhythm section, and that's the what I feel is the kind of the essence of the tradition because it's kind of the driver. Um, I'm always intrigued by what the drum set is doing, what the bassist is doing for the most part, but I'm also like what the keyboardist is playing and the different voicings and different kind of rhythmic themes that are used. But no, to be honest with you, like one that really just got to me, I can't really think of one. It was just kind of a holistic experience, and very cumulative, let's say.
Yeah. So what is it that gets you up every day to create this music, to be a part of this tradition, to merge both of these worlds that you love so much? What is that motivation for you every day to do that?
It's the possibilities.
Yeah.
It's and again with both traditions, they're so fluid and flexible. The maqam tradition is also very improvisational in different ways than jazz. So Middle Eastern music is very linear, it's very horizontal. Doesn't really have much in the as far as harmony goes, for example. Um, Rhythms are can again, it doesn't really, for the most part, doesn't swing. And if you notice, my record doesn't really have swing at all. There was actually one tune that had that swung, and I took it out because I didn't feel it was ready yet. So it's going to be postponed to the next record.
Yeah.
Um, but rhythmically speaking, it's a little different. Um, Kind of performance practice speaking, it's a little different. But what makes them very similar is the fact that they have a big emphasis on improvisation and a big emphasis on um, freedom on the bandstand, freedom of interpretation, which is very important, there's a lot of emphasis on uh, you know uh, tension and release in both musics, and the fact that you get to think in real time. So those similarities, um, along with all of the big differences in them, kind of like creates all of these different possibilities that you can experiment with.
Yeah.
How much do you lean into one tradition versus the other? How do you kind of like, live in between? How do you switch back and forth? How do you make it interesting? So the ideas are just endless because it's not an experiment uh, that's very mainstream. It hasn't been. There are very amazing pioneers in this kind of approach, but each of them actually has a very different approach from the other. So there are a few of us out there who bring Middle Eastern music and jazz together. Some of it is leaning more towards the jazz side. Some of it is leaning more towards the Middle Eastern side. There's a lot of Middle Eastern traditions too. Um, so there's a lot going on, but at the same time, it's an untapped territory.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps it very exciting. My next record could be completely different than this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Not because it's because it's just like not a very well established tradition. So I feel like I'm in the um one of the people who are creating and contributing something new.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone on the bandstand, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I have no idea. Um, you know, I I am just somebody who, simply likes to make music. Um, in a and always learning new things, and I feel like I'm never gonna be uh I'm always gonna be insecure about my musical knowledge because it's just never enough.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, with this project especially, and with some of the other things that I do, like there's the Chicago Immigrant Orchestra too. You just feel so humbled by how much is out there and how many um, greats came before me. Um, that I'm basically kind of um, just one small part of this whole thing, and I just want to. I'm just a person who just likes to create and not only create music, create musical communities, and um, just push this art forward.
Yeah. I think about the complexity of running an 85-piece orchestra, and my metaphor would be trying to take a picture of everybody and not have one person blink their eyes.
Yeah, yeah,
Have their
oh yeah.
eyes shut, right? I mean, there's so many parts and pieces. I always have a reverence for people that lead big bands, and especially when they travel, because there's so many moving pieces, so many
Oh my
things.
God.
Paychecks have to be divvied, instruments have to be accounted for,
Oh yeah.
human beings, right? I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Um, so the album, Silwan is coming out on February 13th, 2026.
Yes.
If anybody wants a copy, they want to catch you live, see the orchestra, any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
They can visit my website mainly, which is waneeszarour.com.
Okay,
And I have all of the I'll have all the shows up there posted.
okay,
Um, they can also find me on Instagram and Facebook.
okay.
The website is a great bet, but yeah, there's this the I'm gonna be playing a lot for with my band East Loop, which is the one that recorded this project,
Yeah.
Silwan. Um, we're gonna be in Chicago February 13th, but after that we're gonna be playing in many different cities. And the Middle East Music Ensemble, which is the large one in University of Chicago, we have a March 1st concert. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm always you know playing somewhere.
Cool.
But yeah, website is the best bet.
Yeah, I will put that in the show notes. What a joy, man. Great to meet you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful 2026, man.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year and happy holidays. And I hope you have a great year next year in 2026. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes,
It's been a
sir.
pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been
Neon Jazz.